welcome to the lunation situation, and thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe and leave a comment if you like what I'm doing. Today we're talking about the full moon in Aries occurring at 14 degrees of that sign, October 7th. This is the first lunation after two intense eclipses. We might all feel a little bit overwhelmed and fatigued after what has occurred. We have also had Mars in Scorpio having a harsh square with Pluto. We've just entered the autumn equinox in the northern hemisphere and the spring in the southern hemisphere. And that change of seasons, change of day and light often also brings a little difficulty on the body and the mind. So we find ourselves in Libra season. The sun is in Libra, and therefore this full moon on the opposite side is occurring, of course, in Aries. A full moon is always a completion point, harvest, things coming to an end, things coming to a fruition, things coming full circle, like that big round thing in the sky. And it's illuminating something. It's revealing something to us that occurs around that 14 degrees in Aries. So look where that falls in your chart. Of course, this also affects 14 degrees of Libra, 14 degrees of Capricorn, and 14 degrees of the Crab. And of course, it also gives a little kiss, extra bunch of energy to the fire signs. So 14 degrees of Sagittarius as well as Leo is affected, but positively through this lunation. There isn't much going on aspect wise, but there is an interesting yod to this moon. So it's working on the opposite side with Mars and the South Node in Virgo that we've had two eclipses in, right, just before this one. So like I said, the fatigue of the eclipse has definitely come back here in this chart. A yod is the finger of God, so there's a divine purpose and mission in this lunation, so says this geometrical pattern. So Mars is the ruler of Aries, and so very significant that it's a player in this yod. It's sextiling that south node. What's that saying? You know, Mars is in Scorpio, having had that harsh square to Pluto in Aquarius a week before this lunation, has confronted us perhaps with anger issues, a bit of a darker side to things in life, a little bit of a meanness, a little bit of, irritation or such. But now we've moved away from that, and this Mars is working again with that south node that has just been eclipsed twice. It's saying that when you're working with eclipses, there is no control and destiny takes over, fate takes over, and it can mean, intense, sudden changes in your life's journey, things coming from left field. And this is the first lunation after, right, the eclipses. So it's the first time that we are having more control over, again, what's going on in our lives. And I feel that the fact that the south node is working here with Mars, it's like now you know what to release. And it's related to really deep issues because Mars is in Scorpio, a very, very intense placement. It's working and processing really dark aspects of who you are or what you've experienced in your life. Deep psychological realizations, as this is awkwardly yet importantly working with this full moon in Aries, right? Again, Mars is the ruler of that moon in Aries. So we are looking at our life goals. We are looking at our energy. We're looking at our motivation, our passion, the lust for life. And it comes from very new ways of doing, right? The South Node in Virgo is releasing the need to have everything picture perfect, to, strive for the best, to feel like you have a lot of control over things. You don't. And then how is that changing what you want and how you're going to go after things from here on. Um, a great change has occurred during the eclipses. And this is really a moment where I feel that we're releasing things intensely from the body, from the mind. Mars in Scorpio is either intensity of psychology that you might be releasing. So think of things like trauma and abuse history, um, or manipulations that you've experienced. But also it represents the genitalia, right? Really intimate regions of our lives, and that's emotionally, physically, and psychologically. So this is an opportunity to really release. So, that's excellent for full moon energy, right? So, um, 5 days prior to this lunation, from October 2nd, would be ideal for a cleanse or detoxification, some kind of purification. Think of, fasting or intermittent fasting, whatever fits you. Really think of cleansing and clearing your body and your psyche. And you can work with earth elements or water elements to do so, okay? Think of a bath or grounding in earth, hugging a tree. This could also mean like a very intense transformation that you're feeling in that psyche, body, and or intimate area. It could be related to sexuality as well. Maybe it's even libido related, okay? And because it's all interlinked, right? If you have the lust for life is that too. Wanting to have passion in what you're doing, your goals, your lust for life is related to the level of your libido even, right? How excited are you to get going? It's like there's an ignition of energy and motivation and passion, but through release, which sounds contradictory, right? Like one cancels out the other, but no, it's working together, and it's not comfortable. It's through integration that we can feel the excitement again. And I think it's really related to 6 months prior, because a full moon is always a culmination of, a new moon occurring 6 months before that. And guess what? That was an eclipse. Ding, ding, ding. So we had an eclipse March 29th, 6 months ago, a solar eclipse, which is a new moon energy in Aries, occurring at 8 degrees and 53 of that Aries sign. So, of course, an eclipse is a very important moment in time. So, 6 months ago, something really important started for all of us intensely. If you have anything around 9 degrees of Aries, something intensely started for you personally. But for all of us, because the next day, March 30th, we embarked upon a very new era, the start of a very new era with Neptune entering Aries. The next day, right after this solar eclipse. So basically, this last 6 months related to this full moon, right? This fullness, this culmination, this completion of a cycle is related really to the journey that Neptune has been in Aries. So this is a moment where you might want to reflect back to the last 6 months, looking at April, May, June, July, August, and September. What have you been experiencing those last 6 months? And I would almost say, what kind of passions have ignited for you, where you kind of feel this surge and urge for a new direction, feeling, motivated again, and the dynamic of just new incoming energy, but maybe not knowing how to go about it. What that exactly is, you might not know. You may have tried some routes, and so it gives an insight to your personal journey for that Neptune Aries storyline. So I think it's really, really interconnected, not only to that solar eclipse 6 months ago, but to that 6 months long Neptune Aries journey, because Neptune is retrograde and will soon in this same month uh, regress, go back into the sign of Pisces. That will occur October 22nd. So, give or take 2 weeks after this lunation. And so, yeah, we're completing that first chapter, the trailer, if you will, of what Neptune in Aries is going to bring us individually and collectively. Now, of course, it's really important that that kind of happens simultaneously with Saturn in Aries as well. This is why it creates that new era, right? Because Saturn is the dense material world. Our leaders, our figures of representatives in the world, governments, bosses, leaders of significance, but it's also success, ambition, um, big systems of how things are going in this world, how things are working in this world. The dense material aspect is completely changing, and Neptune is kind of the opposite. It's about the immaterial and the unseen. And it's wonderful that Rick Levine points out that, Neptune is about illusions and, the unseen, right? And then Saturn is the complete opposite. It's about reality, and it's about the seen. We can see it with our eyes, we can touch it with our hands, and them working together is kind of blurring that Saturnian energy into, is this reality then unreal? Is this an illusion that we're living in? And is that illusionary world of Neptune becoming the new reality? I think it's such an interesting philosophy to ponder upon, because, we have just about perhaps 6 months until we have this journey again in February of 2026, when both Neptune and Saturn will enter at the same time, approximately Aries again. So we've had a preview this last 6 months. And this full moon really asks you to look back of what is, bringing excitement to you. In what ways have you changed your manners, your behaviors, and interests, really? And it's just in a reflectionary mode, as well as like breadcrumbs have been given to you, signs have been delivered, you've felt a shift, you've noticed the change in interest and energy level. And why don't you notice that? Why don't you make a list of that and kind of follow the breadcrumbs? And life is giving you 6 months of, again, a bit of, thinking it through, um, you know, following paths, perhaps getting distracted, and then coming back to the path again. You have 6 months to really figure it out what these last 6 months have been trying to tell you. And I think it's a preview not only of what's going to happen next year, but also a preview into the excitement that's going to come into your life, the motivation and passion that may have been gone for a long time, which is in my case, it was gone for a long time. So, but I feel a bit of that bubbling up, and I think you do too. So what divine message has been brought to you these last 6 months? Have you noticed it? Is it revealed to you clearly now? Other than that, there is another yacht in this chart, and that's between a sextile between Uranus and Saturn, which are also changing our reality and innovating our reality. Since both are retrograde, I would say it's also about, dealing with endings and grief, to things that are parting from your life to make way for that new start soon. And so you're also doing that. But that sextile is making a yod towards Mercury, who has just entered Scorpio at 0 degrees. And so this is the upgrade of our mind, of our intelligence, of our knowledge. Have you noticed how many people are really trying to figure things out for what they really are? You know, deep dives and rabbit holes, and, you know, for some conspiracy theories or just alternative ways of, you know, perspective, looking at histories, true occurrences. A lot of us are waking up to that, and, you know, what's really going on. And ultimately it's just, you know, we're expanding our minds. And although it's an uncomfortable situation, again, because the yod is that weird quincunx towards Mercury, but we are understanding things on a very deep level in Scorpio. We're investigating, you know, we're really trying to figure things out and follow our intuition. It's about deep transformation, again, the psyche and psychology. We're looking at the dark aspects. You know, it is the autumn season in the Northern Hemisphere. We're called to do that seasonally. We're invited into the dark, if you will, to explore, you know, the shadows and what's it telling you and what's there to be processed and alchemized into beauty almost, you know, to retract the meaning of what's going on, why things have occurred. Maybe because you wanted to become stronger, maybe you wanted to learn, and maybe you wanted to see things for what they are, or maybe you needed to, as a soul, develop the capability to say no when you're confronted with really heavy things in life, because you always do have that opportunity to say no. It's very, very powerful. Remember that. Another big important thing that's occurring here is a big square that I talked to you about, how Mars had been squaring Pluto, because now Mercury entering Scorpio means that it is now taking over the Mars square by squaring itself, Mercury, to Pluto in Aquarius. And, you know, Mars square Pluto is more intense because they kind of are the same dark, heavy energies. Mercury squaring Pluto is not the same, but it works very much, again, on our mind. It works on intelligence, information, knowledge. And so we're pushed to look deeply into ourselves and into truth. We have a strong truth radar. We're really called to find the truth. And it's, you know, the T-squared just forces you to do that. And if you don't, it becomes really uncomfortable. So there are things being put into our awareness, into our psychology, that we need to notice. And luckily for us, a full moon is something, an energy where you do easily notice something more, because there's this light shining on the dark. So the energies are helping you to see things, to allow things to be revealed to you. And then what are you going to do with it now, right? You're going to process it. You know, some call it healing work, integrational work, whatever you want to call it. It's that alchemical process where you ultimately turn your pain into purpose or meaning, you know. You know, alchemy is where they turn lead into gold, right? So how can you make it something really valuable? What you've experienced, what you're understanding, you know, extract the value of it. That's what you're doing. That's the integrational process. That's the healing process. Then there's maybe another little thing Jupiter, this is nice. Jupiter in the crab is sextiling Venus, who is close to the south node. She's actually conjunct the south node. So it's working with allowing again our feminine energies of receiving, of worth and value, like I said just before, so it's all tied back to that. And then we have this kiss from Jupiter who's supporting us, who's helping us, you know, to become more confident, to feel what we need to feel, to let go of what we need to let go, to increase our self-esteem, to increase our confidence. And so this is a really nice element in this chart as well that we're working with, that we're receiving. So this is, you know, a little bit of a relief after all the intense eclipses, but think about, you know, that 6 months evaluation that's taking place here and how that's related to Neptune in Aries, how that's related to your passion, to your new goals in life, to your personal new era. How's that gonna look? What did you receive? And what are you ready to soon, especially in 2026, to embark upon? All right, have a lovely full moon in Aries, and I'll see you soon. Take care.